Going live. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's Renee in Montana. Behind me is a fan that I'm going to try to stay in the middle of so you don't have to deal with that. This is my Christmas tree, who I feel incredibly blessed to know about and have her in my house. I don't know why I think of her as a girl, but she just feels like a girl to me. um, these are my prayer flags. This is the whiteboard. That's the stove. I haven't even started it today. It's 2:43 in the afternoon. I got about all morning. I haven't even washed up my face. My hair is an utter mess. It doesn't matter. I'm up. I'm here with you now. Here's what matters. For the next, stuffed up nose. Geez, don't you hate that when you're on camera and you have a stuffed up nose? I don't know what to do about it. I could just depart for a moment, then you'd have the terrible fan in the background. I could go turn off the fan, then I could go blow my nose and come back and you would get to hang out with the beautiful Christmas tree. Oh, by the way, that back there, that is a light. And that light is used to light this human up or whoever happens to be standing in front of the camera delivering their information. That's my art in the background and my library, which I'm going to keep my head in the way of the fan so you don't have to see it. That is my library right there. And I'm going to go through the library at some point. Now, this is an invitation to work with me. Renee in Montana. Renee Francis Kahn is actually my whole name. And each one of us during our time together is going to find how they're going to be able to stand more strongly in their own name. Off of that bookshelf behind me right there, I'm going to go turn off the fan and blow my nose. I'll be right back. I'm still here. You're going to hear me honk my nose. I apologize ahead of time. Not even too bad. Okay, the fan is still running. I have been working on the topic of grief for the past few months now. And in fact, it's not just been a few months, it's been years. Here are my real eyes. And here is my furry face. And here's my hair that's not as luscious as it once was as I age. And as we age and we experience losses. And the people that we loved and who loved us in ways that no one knows. No one could possibly understand how that love feels. So where does the love go when we experience deep loss? That's what we're going to be working on. I'm not going to give you the answers. I'm trusting, better yet, I'm trusting that I need water is what I really need. Gosh. I'm trusting that we will be able to handle this healing journey together. I just saw a piece of like graphic meme or something like that on Facebook. Oh, much better. What they were talking about is not getting stuck in the healing. Move on. Go into your life. So I'm here to help you with the healing part, and we're going to try to get you through it as quickly as possible. Oh man, the things that make us feel vulnerable, snarking up the crap in the back of your head and throat and ears and hacking it up to spit it out. Ugh. That's to have someone witness that with and for you in your life, that is a really intense thing. I've been going through that recently. I lost my mom when I was 23 and my dad when I was 32 or 33. We could figure it out exactly. It doesn't really matter. One thing you'll realize about me after you've been hanging out with me is that I don't really care about time that much. And for these 21 days that we're going to be together, I'll be here or be somewhere with you. Or occasionally in Montana, you're just not in a cell phone zone. But my intention is to be a half hour ahead of time, prepping myself in front of the camera, doing this basic talk before we actually launch into the topic of the day, which I think I'm going to try to keep as short and sweet as possible. But these little conversations where I'm just sharing myself with you and myself in the world with you, that's the good stuff. I mean, this is the really rich stuff. This is the intimate stuff. I'm bringing you into my life and my story about healing, integrating, transforming the experiences of loss that I've had. And I've had in several interesting genres. Dead Parents Club, part of that, Lost in Both. The funny things that still stick with me that I don't want to lose because it helps me to be able to relate to you and what you're going through right now. There are little snippets of the story, and I'm starting to feel them as love instead of just devastation. And I realized that the first couple of weeks that after my dad had died, that I really noticed this, but it was also true after my mom died. I felt like the area around me was surrounded with angels, and that the angels held their wings open. They only needed to take one giant, and all the other angels were around them, and they were too. Every once in a while, in their own cadence, tuned into one another. It's like that jumping game that you play in theater, and you get it so that everybody jumps at the same time. This is a little different. This is like the improvisation of angels. Yeah. Being with me on this trip is about being jumping ship, jumping trains, train hopping, spaghetti, here to there to there to here, but it all has a piece of the puzzle. I am the Gestalt. Me sharing myself like this with you, I am the Gestalt. So for me to process with you my own experience, that means I have to be tuned into my own experience and then somehow be able to articulate that with you. And what does this have to do with you? Got to get to the point. We're almost 10 minutes in. I got to get to the point. So I am running this 21-day. What is it? Well, I came on here to do a tiny little short video. So I guess I'm prepping up to that. And I said, shit, I'm just going to go live. What I don't have to post this afterwards. I should have something to wipe off my hands with. That would some antiseptic, because I did cough on my hand. We really do want to cough into our arm and let the fabric capture the viruses. It dies on that faster than any other place. Better yet, if you have a snot rag that you can cover up your face with and cough and sneeze into that. We're going to have to get through this COVID-19 and not be completely neurotic. And right now, there's utter chaos in the world. And losing someone we love adds to that chaos. It can also deliver us into a space where we're more connected to universal understanding. So what is that universal understanding? I hasten a guess that universal understanding is of love. What is love in all of this? It's the sense that you are surrounded by angels who've got you. They're holding the space, they're holding at bay all of the pain and the tragedy that you are experiencing right now. All the thoughts of your life and their life, the person that you've lost, the person you're losing. I have friends right now who are losing their family members, who are in the ICU, who've been hooked up to the incubator. Interesting. Those two things are kind of interesting. Intubator, ventilator. And at some point, they may have to make the choice to take them off life support. And that brings a whole segment of guilt and shame and questions and wonder to make that call. We want our loved ones to just be able to make the call themselves, and they can if they're not hooked up to the ventilator. The ventilators, the incubators, the intubators, put the tube down the throat into the lungs. Nobody wants to go through this. Nobody wants their loved ones to die. You didn't, I didn't, you don't. And then when it happens, it's a whole other world. I don't know a single person whose life did not get turned upside down, as if a tsunami crashed upon their heads. And they're lost at sea. And you get a hold of something to float on. But now you're out at sea and lost. Or maybe it crashed over you and you're just amidst the wreckage. That's what it feels like. So you can have those kinds of experiences too. You can have the house destroyed by a feat of nature. And death itself is a feat of nature. It is entropy taking over. I might have that a little. If somebody's on here and you want to help correct me on this, entropy is like the slowing down of. And what if in that one tiny moment, tiny moment of their death, there is an awakening for you, awakening for things of the spiritual world, of things that you didn't know about, you didn't understand, that some part of you has been keeping you away from this knowledge, and now you know. You know the tearing in the fabric of the universe. You know this now. When you've loved something with all of your being, and you've let your guard down utterly, completely, and you gave it everything you had, it, them, and somehow you know that you could have done better, you could have done more. What do you do with that information? That's what we're going to be talking about in our 21 days together. Now, I'm going to invite you to share your thoughts. In fact, I think I'm getting a clear idea about how I want to use this process. Oh gosh, we're nearly 15 minutes in. So I think that I'm going to do Q&A in here in YouTube, because I like the quality of the video here better than I've liked it in other places. And yeah, I just feel it feels more comfortable for me. So what I'm going to ask you to do in each day before I go live, so I'll warm up here. I'm going to warm up in YouTube, and this is where it's much more improvisational. I'll play with yesterday's questions and the topic at hand, see where it leads me, and then I'll go live to Facebook and reiterate what I heard and saw for myself in that process. So if I were making an ad right now for Facebook about what I'm doing, this is what it would be. I'm offering a 21-day daily conversation at 1:30 in the afternoon, my time, Mountain Time. So it's an hour earlier on Pacific, Central is an hour ahead, Eastern is an hour ahead. And then if we go into Europe, Asia, Australia, it changes based on that. Okay, Africa, wherever you are in the world, this is for you. And I'm going to learn from you because we're going to talk about our cultures, rituals, and ceremonies for celebrating the life of the people that we loved and honoring their death. Excuse me. I was showing you books that I took that came off the shelf for me. So this one is called The Sacred Pipe. I wonder if there's a way to flip around the video so that you can actually see this. Well, I'll keep playing around with it, but right now this book is Black Elk, and it's called The Sacred Pipe, account of the 7 rites of the Oglala Sioux. And it looks like it was recorded and edited by Joseph Epps Brown. Okay. The gentle art of verbal self-defense for business success. Why do I want that? And it looks pretty old because I think that it's a foundational book. And just in my glancing through it, it seemed like something that would be useful right now. I think that we need to learn to communicate better. All of us can use some support in the field of communication. And what better way to do that than to read a book together. So I'm going to be reading that book. This is Dan Millman's Everyday Enlightenment. Now, if you know anything about me, you will know that I am the type of person that kind of jumps around from one thing to another, and then it eventually coalesces and I have some better understanding of the world. And books are no different than that for me. So these are the ones that are on my docket. The discipline for me is that I'm going to stay within the realms of these books, except that I have 2 books on the top shelf over there that are just like, well, one actually. I'm going to go get it because I love that book. And then we're going to come back to The Wild Edge of Sorrow, which if we're working on grief, then that's what, at least one of the books in my pantheon is going to be having to do something with grief and loss, trauma, grief, and loss, because this is what we have to connect ourselves with. And I just had a thought about Diana. She is the goddess of war, I want to say. And she was a great archer. But she also tended her fallen on the field, and that was a huge part of her work. So she was a healer and a warrior. And that's what's called upon all of us who are going through grief. We have to call upon the warrior self and the healer self, and we have to do it for us. We have to call upon the warrior self and the healer self, and we have to do it for us. For the knowledge that we came here, you came here with as a distinct puzzle piece with very important knowledge to share. And figuring out what that is the most important piece of the puzzle for healing what's happening in the world right now and for us. And this is our sacred, solemn duty. And loss, big loss, tragedy, grief, we want as little of it as possible. That means, and it's going to happen because luck happens. Luck happens. That's just a fact. Luck happens. There's good luck. There's bad luck. There's very little neutral luck, because what we do with the sudden cataclysmic events that change our lives, that turn us upside down, leaving us a puddle, pile, heaping mess on the floor. And I don't know a single person who's not been there, including all the warriors that I know. We have to know within ourselves the warrior and the healer, and they have to work in conjunction together to help us make it through this very difficult time. The dark, what is the dark night of the soul? It's when you got to go in, dig in deep into all the things that you're afraid of. And the death of a loved one will bring that up. It will. It does. Maybe that's why it happens. When we ask why it happens is for their benefit, so they could transform out of this life of pain, because death often entails a lot of pain too, right? And I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for any of us. And yet, for some reason, it seems that it's a piece of the puzzle. I brought up the movie The Little Buddha with Keanu Reeves, but Keanu was the big Buddha, not the little Buddha. There were four or five kids that were identified as the little Buddhas, the potential of the little Buddha, and that the man who was the main teacher, the dad of the boy from the United States, he saw the pain cross. Makes me feel tender. What did the dad in his life know? That he could see. He wasn't an old man. He was in his late middle ages. In that Lama, that spiritual teacher, he could see something very subtle in the he could see something very subtle across the face of that holy man. And he asked him, he had the courage to ask him what was going on. To which the response was, I think it was the dad said, are you in pain? Are you sick? Are you dying? Questions that the little Buddha, that a Buddha thinks to ask, because they see in the faces of the people around them the stories that are not being told. And so, in a way, it's no wonder that that little American boy was identified. And it was a great cosmic joke. The whole beautiful thing about the story is that it was really a beautiful cosmic joke that this Lama, the one before, the one that they were looking for, the one who had died, and then it was said that he was reincarnated, and they identified several children, one being a young boy from the United States of America. I can't remember if he was blonde, but that's an interesting piece to play. And then there was the little girl, and then there was another little boy. I think there were just 3 kids. But it was interesting. So then, and all of them knew all of the things. And I don't remember actually how it ends. I want to say that the little girl ended up being the little Buddha, that she was the one that they identified as the one. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in my mind just now, and this is how we reframe things, right? This is a perfect example of reframing something, even a movie that may never have had this intention at all within it. So I just saw this little subtle nuance to the puzzle piece that the dad, he too was the part of the Buddha because something in his life had brought him to the place that he was quiet in his observations, knowing and seeing all the things that were around him, saw that there was that the Lama, the spiritual teacher, was coming to his end. And the Lama knew it, and the Lama's students knew it. And what I loved about this, and this tells you about the type of person I've always been, because I probably saw that movie back. I probably saw that back in my teenage years. I'd have to look it up, but so this is what one thing that it's telling about me is that ceremony and ritual and other cultures, that's something that has always been intriguing to me. And I think that we have a lot to learn, especially around rites and passages for birth and death. So, what ended up happening is that the Lama went into this meditation, and he never came out. He just meditated himself out of his own body. And I want to believe that that is possible. And if it's possible, then we have to practice, right? So we can't always be the ones who go to the monastery and be surrounded by that kind of energy. But I think that we can practice and understand that death is just part of life and that we will meet that end too. I've been doing coaching for the last few months and mindset coaching. And my coach called me out on some of my victim mentality. And it was so gentle. It wasn't harsh at all. He just asked the question, have you thought about that part of you that is getting something out of playing the role of the victim? If you are. So you have to be able to be honest with yourself about that. You have to, the question is, I have to ask this of myself. Am I playing the victim role? And if I am, what am I getting out of it? It's a valid question. And sometimes we are, and sometimes we've got something else going on. It isn't the victim role at all, but it was a good question for me at the time. And the second thing he brought to my attention was this. I was freaking out because I was like, over my coaching experience, I found out that the time has been the big, that's been what's been chasing me. This time is running out. I lost my mom when I was 23, my dad when I was 32. See how that's just part of the story now? What it still isn't working in my life because of that story. And how can I use that story, which is what I'm working on right now, to be in support of others? Not that we're commiserating, but that action has to be taken. And it comes and goes in waves, the experience of life. When you've lost something significant enough that it takes your legs out from under you for a while, it changes you as a person. And the key is, how do we keep remembering the best parts of who we are and that that's still possible for us in our life? This is the living, the choosing to live part of the equation. And keeping our heart open to love. If in our life we have said, there's only one person or two people who have loved me unconditionally, then you know what unconditional love is and what that feels like. And wanting that is part of, and not knowing where to get it from or where to go for it after someone dies. It's a mind fuck, to say the very least. And it's part of what we have to just explore it. See, the interesting thing about losing someone that you love and life after loss and healing from grief and all the other ways that you can say it. The interesting thing about it is that even that can be part of your quest to know yourself and life, and you can choose to see it also as an adventure. Now, if you're feeling in the shits and it sucks and all you're feeling is the emotions and you're just literally being ravaged by them right now, that is the way that it goes for some time. And at some point, you have to make the choice to get out of it, to climb out of it. And the longer that you stay mired in it, sometimes the harder it is. But then that's the question about, what am I getting out of playing this victim role? Something about it feels you're getting something good out of it. Good is not the right word. There is some sort of positive reinforcement. It could be proof that you're unworthy. Barf. It's like not even true, but the mind fuck that comes when your world blows apart and you don't know how to get it back together, that is it's intense. It's intense. And that's why we're doing this 21-day conversation together. I'm not going to say that we're going to read the book in the 21 days. What I'm going to encourage you to do during the 21 days is whatever book that you have on the topic of grief in your library, on your bookshelves, commit to reading some of it. Because it's just tiny steps at some point. And when I look back, I have made huge strides. I've accomplished a lot in the time since my mom died, 25 years, 16 since my dad died. I've experienced a lot of life, and the emotions that are identified with grief, they have they I'm still in the integration process, because I think those emotions, fear, sadness, a sense of isolation, loneliness, overwhelm, super easily frustrated, uh, numbness. When that comes and goes, because numbness is like the only thing that makes sense. It's the white noise all around you. The only thing that seems to protect you, except for knowing and feeling the energy of the angels surrounding you. So I'm going to get all the way back to the day that my dad died. No, yes, it was the day. It was that day. It was rainy and awful, and there were multiple wrecks on the road. And because we had to travel from Helena to Missoula, and it was sleeting, raining, dark gray, not just gray, black. It was awful. A few days before, a 17-year-old girl had tipped her car over into the borrow pit, crawled out onto the road, and was hit by something. Probably a truck. She was decapitated. And then my dad was killed in the car accident, and horses were flung out onto the road, and humans were flung out onto the road because they weren't wearing their seatbelts. And even the 16-year-old kid who caused the accident, the trauma around that incident And the ways that people handle it, talking about it, not talking about it, it lives with us regardless because it's in the physical body. So if you have an emotional trauma, which to me the wreck was an emotional trauma because I lost my dad, right? And any emotional garbage that I was carrying at the time, if I tripped and fell and hurt my shoulder, if I tripped and fell and hurt my shoulder at that time, then the emotional information has the potential to still be stuck in the physical body. That's why body work is good. And also body work can bring up the emotions, and then when the emotions come up, if you aren't used to allowing your emotions to surface ever, and that happens, it can be frightening. And the key is in all of this is that we're going to learn to trust our emotions as our navigational tools, and teachers. So that's what part of the 21 days is all about. You get these foundational tools, you can make it through anything in life. Doesn't mean that you won't be a wreck, doesn't mean that you will be good at it at any point. I mean, the idea that you're going to be good at anger, it's true, you can get better. The idea that you can get any better with your sadness, it's true, you can get better. It can get easier. You can learn to work with it. You can learn to trust it's helping you understand the world in a different kind of way. Reframe. So it was not actually the event of the accident at my dad's death. It was the memorial service. And I've been telling this story a lot lately, but in particular, for me, I felt so surrounded by love. I felt like filled up so far beyond capacity. And it was so strange because at the same time, I was so sad and so angry and so dumbstruck and numb. And yet, when I look at it now, it was the love that was so overwhelming. And I didn't know what to do with it. And I think then it might actually be easier to tap into those other emotions like sadness or anger. It's easier to outwardly numb ourselves with drugs and alcohol or work, but it never really works. It's always a big cover up until something else is the tipping point and we actually have to deal with those emotions that we've been that have been being kept hidden or we've been keeping hidden from ourselves and others. If we're seeking happiness, we have to contend with the stuff that's unseen and unsung. And we have to contend with the continued beauty and wonder in the world, which we now may find ourselves suddenly distanced from. Or the back of my head, throat is so stuffed up. I think I'm actually going to have to let you go so I can take care of this. But there was an or here. Can I remember it? We're going to have to come back to it. I'll have to watch this with you and see where the story led, see where we're at for tomorrow. All right. Talk to you soon. Send in love.